Good evening, good evening, good evening, my good people. Good evening. The girl is coming live again this week. I have gotten really happy coming live and getting to meet most of you all. Thank you so much for when you join. I feel like I'm just turning into the live queen. I'm live on all sides. But definitely want to thank you so much for joining me today. I just wanted to come and hang out, see how everyone was feeling this evening, share some words of encouragement, just have some chit chat for those of you that are just chilling out. We can vibe out, whatever the case may be. Hey, to those of you that are coming in, hello. Thank you so much for joining, y'all. I'm just hanging out tonight. I wanted to give some positive words of affirmation, wanted to encourage someone, wanted to just chit chat. Thank you so much for coming in my live today. Good evening, y'all. So this live is going to be for encouragement purposes. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tasha, aka Real Talk with T. The girl comes with the vibes. I come with fashion. I come with encouragement. I come with laughter. This is a safe space to just vibe out and just be exactly who you are. No judgment. This is a judgment-free, safe zone. Thank you so much in advance for joining me tonight. When I joined this live today, and I was thinking about what I wanted to start with, I just was thinking about, to much is given, much is required. That was a message that spoke to me. And the reason why I think that is such an amazing phrase is because we don't realize when we're given things in life, right? When God blesses us with things in life, whether it be circumstances, opportunities, relationships, and connections, when he gives us a lot, there's a lot that comes with that. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. When he has the expectation of us coming into this life and he's giving us dominion over things, there's a price that you have to pay with that. And what I'm noticing in the season that I'm in, and I don't know who this might help or encourage, but I'm being stretched in ways that I've never been stretched before. I've been challenged in ways that I've never been stretched before. And I've also faced very serious spiritual warfares, right? So I'm going to give y'all a little story, a little bit of my business, if you will. I just recently went through a divorce, and one of the most challenging things about that divorce was probably just being able to move out of the marital property. And I decided to move forward and move into an apartment, but it is a nice size. I love it. And it's perfect for me and my kids. I have two. But what I realized in the middle of me moving, right, I felt like the enemy was attacking me on all sides, y'all. First of all, what I'll say is, I felt like every time I move, I get all scratched and banged up, and it's just a mess. But I didn't have a lot of help. I felt like the enemy separated me from my family at that time. I felt like I didn't have a lot of support in ways that I wish that I did from people that I wish were present. And I felt like everything that could go wrong was just going wrong, right? And I was like, God, what are you trying to do to me? I feel like he was trying to take me out. That's what it honestly felt like in my spirit. But what I had to realize is, God was testing me. He was testing my faith and my intentionality in the midst of the season that I was going through and moving out of that marriage into this new phase or this new chapter, right? And what I realized in the midst of all of that is I had two choices to make. I could either let the situation overwhelm me and knock me down, or I could let the situation catapult me to keep moving forward in the midst of everything that I was going through, right? And this is a message for someone, so I want y'all to listen carefully because this is good. In the midst of everything that I was going through, I was growing through it too. And I never gave up. I always tell people that ever had the pleasure of meeting me in my spirit and my way of being and a way of think. I always tell them, every time that I get knocked down, I can get knocked down 10,000 times. And on that 10,001, I'm going to get back up, guns blazing, every single time. And the reason why is because in the middle of the way that God tests us in different seasons, whether they are good or bad, whether they're storm or victory, he gives us the understanding that we are able to accomplish many things, to have great things come to us as long as we never give up and we keep going. I live my life by positive affirmation always. I might not put Post-it notes everywhere like a lot of people do. But if that's your thing, hey, go ahead and rock out. If you journal, if that's your thing, hey, rock out. If prayer is what you do, whatever works for you, I want to encourage someone that you can accomplish things even in the midst of a storm when you're being tested and you're being triggered in ways that you can't even imagine, as long as you never lose your faith and you never give up. On the other side of the things that we get tested with is a victory. On the other side of things that the enemy throws at us, we have the ability to keep going. Even if mustard seed faith is all we have in those certain moments or certain circumstances, mustard seed faith will carry you far. When a seed is planted in the ground, it's very minute, right? But over time, when you water that seed, when you nurture that seed, when you pour into that seed, what happens? It grows. It blossoms, and whatever it is that you're planting, it grows, but you have to water it. You have to nurture it. And that's what I believe God is testing us with when he's testing us in the midst of a storm. He's testing us with very little to see how when we're thrown a drought, are we going to water and create a harvest, or are we going to allow that seed to diminish and die? And when you go through things, you grow through things, my loves. And I felt like this was a message for someone because it was definitely a message for my spirit. And I always like to share because I understand that with the things that we go through in this life, we can achieve many things when we stay faithful to God's promise over our lives, right? And I wanted to encourage somebody. And a message that I shared on a recent live on Instagram was, no opportunity lost ends your chapter, but it begins a new one. Whenever you have that no, when you have that door closed, when you have that opportunity that you feel like you missed out on, or whenever you feel like someone just walked away from you, what you have to understand and get real clear on is when God takes away something from you, it's because he got something greater coming back to you, my loves. He will never take something from you without having something that is multiplied for you right on the other side of your faith. And as long as you don't lose faith and you don't lose hope, hope and faith is what will carry you through all seasons that you travel through. Because weeping only endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning, my loves. And as long as you understand that and you never lose faith in that word, you can achieve many things, because like I always say, God is the source provider of our strength. And as we learn in life that when we go through some things, as long as we turn to him for our source of strength, even in the storm, we're fine. We're covered, we're protected, and we're okay. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was forgiveness, right? And what I've been struggling with is forgiveness overall when I feel like people do me wrong. Because I think sometimes when we face trauma in life, and I think that this is something that can speak to someone's spirit too. When we face trauma in life, a normal trauma response, if you have some type of attachment style that mirrors anxious, avoidant, or fearful, if you are aware of what attachment styles truly look like, they can cause us to have trauma responses to the things that we go through in life. And they may make us cower away from being able to find healthy ways to find solutions to get us through our trauma. I'm going to let y'all in my business a little bit. In my recent previous marriage, what I learned was when you have an attachment style to a person that may not be able to tap into feelings or healthy ways of communicating just what they may feel in a relationship where you guys can grow, sometimes the message is lost because you can't find equilibrium with the person that does not know how to effectively communicate. Effectively, communication doesn't always look like having all the right words to say. Sometimes it means just having the intentionality from the very beginning to share, to tell someone how you feel, to tell someone when you feel like there's brokenness or there's impartiality within your spirit, and to trust that they are safe enough where you can be vulnerable to have an exchange of conversation where you can grow. I was having a conversation with a friend earlier about marriage, and a lot of the times we're conditioned to believe in this society that we live in that with marriage, it's supposed to be peaches and roses and a fairy tale where you live happily ever after and everything is just peaches and cream and everything's just happiness all the time, love and fluffiness. But that's not what marriage looks like, my loves. And one thing that I understood and learned in my recent marriage that I just recently exited is that you just have to find somebody that you are evenly yoked with. As long as you find someone that you are evenly yoked with in life, you can cultivate a significant relationship with them in that. Because when you're in even yoke, you're with someone that y'all might not always see eye to eye, but you can healthily, in a healthy way, disagree and agree to disagree and move on. You can pause and not be quick to use slanderous words that will hurt the other person. You will pause not to just walk away from it and ignore it, but maybe just to take a step back, to recalibrate and think about what you want to say respectfully, and understanding that the person will give you the safe space to receive what you have to say once you take the time for self to recalibrate your spirit so that you're respectfully communicating your disagreement or your indifference. One thing that I learned in my marriage that I think is the most significant and valuable lesson is when you pray to God and ask them, is this the right person for me? You have to wait for confirmation. I got so many signs and signals that wasn't the marriage for me. That wasn't the relationship for me. That wasn't the space that I should have been moving in. But I kept dodging all of the signals like red flags. I ignored all of them. When God threw me a red flag, I was like, nope, green light. When God told me you might need to be slow with this one, nope, green light. I just kept ignoring the things that he was showing me. But what we have to understand is when we pray for something and wait for confirmation, we have to receive it when it's given to us. But you know how you receive confirmation in anything that you pray about? Discernment. Discernment, my loves, is something that we don't always understand how to be taking heed to, or that we don't always understand the radars that go off when we're discerning things. But I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to tap into it. Women, we naturally and we innately have an intuition that leads us into the way to make decisions and the way to understand when things aren't right or when they are. With men, they don't always have the same intuition that we have, but the discernment is when there are things in your gut that you feel, when there are circumstances that are happening and your radars and your internal makeup is responding to it. Whether it's a good or bad response, it's letting you know that there's something you need to take heed to in that moment. And when you listen to your discernment and heighten your wisdom, and wisdom and discernment comes with experience. I'm 37 years old now for point of reference. And I'm telling y'all, a lot of the lessons that I learned in this life didn't start happening until I turned into my 30s. Once the decade of 20 ended, 30 is where the lessons started being implemented. 30 is where the experiences started to happen. 30 is when I started learning to pay attention to my intuition and my discernment. And a lot of what I'm learning these days is to also learn how to be in one with what I feel versus what God is showing me. And all of the time that we pray about things, we might not get a quick confirmation or a quick instance where we know how we should maneuver through life after that. But you got to be patient and be still. I'm right now in a season of isolation. And what season of isolation currently looks like for me is I'm not really engaging in a whole bunch of extracurricular activities because my life has shifted. Obviously, I went from having a 2-income lifestyle to now having one. And I still make do with what I have, but I also have to make sure that what I have, I'm not mishandling it. When God is blessing me with even just small things, small blessings and small, financial gains and small things over time that he's giving me for the things that I actually need, I have to make sure that I'm a good steward over these things. Because when you're a good steward over few, God will bless you with many. And one thing that I'm learning is being okay not always being on the scene. Being okay being able to show up to everything. Being okay with not being able to shop all the time. Being okay with not having so many resources that I can just do whatever I shall please. But you know what? I have found the most peace and happiness in the season. And I'm not going to lie to you. It is the most liberating and freeing feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. What I learned about myself is a lot of my relationships, and it was crazy because I was thinking to myself the other day and I was talking to a friend and I was like, wow, every relationship I feel like I've been in has been unhealthy. And when I say unhealthy, I'm not just talking about intimate relationships, even friendships have been unhealthy. And the reason why is because a lot of the relationships may have been rooted in me being so open and so accessible to just every and anybody. Me giving all my time to other people. Me putting my own needs to the side. Me not having a real true connection and sense of self-awareness or even self-love to the point where I can put myself beyond everybody else. Me pouring into everyone else's cup to the point of mine being empty. Me not understanding that the word no is okay all by itself with nothing that follows it. I didn't understand any of those dynamics because I was a people pleaser. And when I realized when that pandemic first struck and I first had to engage in being in the midst of a season where I am an extroverted person. I love people. I love talking to people. I love educating. I love inspiring, encouraging, and being connected to people, right? And when I realized in that season of that pandemic first starting that this feels uncomfortable. This is weird. I don't understand why this is happening. But at the end of the day, there's something that's being communicated to us all. And what I realized in the beginning of the pandemic was God needed to sit a lot of us down so that we can get real clear on some things. It was too much noise and too much distractions in the world as it was. And God said, I need to sit you down so that I can communicate with you with no distractions and no interference. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I got in the midst of that pandemic and I really had to sit with self, it was so uncomfortable. I don't know how many of you all can agree or attest to this, but it felt like literally the walls were caving in. It felt like life as I knew it was just over with. That's how I felt at first. But then I start realizing I needed to pray more. I needed to increase my prayer life. I needed to increase the things that I was doing within myself. And I needed to understand, what does self-love look like? What does healing look like? What parts of my childhood and trauma from my childhood, what parts of that created the person that I felt like I was in that moment? And what did I need to do differently so that I can peel away from the layers of my brokenness and increase and amplify the parts of me that needed to grow and that have began to grow? And when you're in the midst of a season where God is sitting you down and where God is closing everything that you once understood as your familiarity or your safe space, because it really wasn't that, I had to realize I needed to get real clear on some things. And what I started doing was I started journaling. I started praying more. I started being okay with the isolation that he placed us in, because I realized in those moments that was where I was being stretched. And I first did, like, I had someone that was encouraging me right before the pandemic happened. It was a friend. He used to always say, Tasha, you have such a light within you. Why don't you share it with other people? And I was like, what do you mean share it with other people? And he's like, why don't you start talking on social media and creating videos? Why don't you start being able to open up yourself to the things that you shine brightly in and share them with other people? And I'm not going to lie to you, I was like, what? It was uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get on a video. I don't even know the first thing to recording and editing. And I learned it in college, but I didn't know how to apply it with the space that I was in. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I kept walking away from it. But the more and more that message resonated within my mind, once the pandemic happened, I started being like, you know what? I need to take heed to that message that transmitted to my spirit right before the pandemic happened from my friend. And I need to start cleaving more to that. So it's this lake here in Maryland that I love so much. It's a body of water right in Harbor East, if you're familiar with downtown Baltimore. And what I used to do was I would take my kids there and we would just go there and I would pray. I would just sit still. Sometimes I would bring my little speaker and listen to music, and sometimes I would just sit there in silence. And what I noticed is God was communicating with me a lot. I'm a water sign, so I love being close to the water. And what I started noticing is in those moments where I just would sit there and listen to the water and just be still, it's where the message just kept resonating in my spirit. You need to start putting yourself out there more. You need to start sharing more. You need to start becoming. And what's so peculiar is there's an influencer on here that I love. He has this fan that he always slashes open and he gives message. But one of the words that he uses is become. And I just started following him recently. And then my good sis Sarah Jakes, she had a message on a sermon earlier this week. And the message was becoming her. And I reflected back to the beginning of the pandemic when I did my first speaking engagement at this women's empowerment event. And you know what my theme of my message was? Becoming. And y'all, when I say I got chills, I literally got chills. And the reason why is because this week God has stretched me in spaces that I've not been comfortable with. Because when I started my business over a year ago, I didn't have a clue, a roadmap, a plan, a daggone thing. I have a vintage boutique that I have online where I sell clothing, but I also have a speaking page called Tosh Speaks, where I come and speak to people. And on Real Talk with T, I speak and I give words of affirmation, encouragement, motivation. I educate. I do all the things. And what I realized is these two worlds, these two entities that are within me can be merged and blended together. I just got to do it. Like Nike says, just do it. And when I started moving into actually becoming, even in the midst of me doing this right now, I was scared to death. Ask my daughter, I would just be like, I just want to hit 1,000 followers so I can go live. I want to go to 1,000 followers so I can go live. So God said, okay, I got something for you. I tripled my following when I started healing through a narcissistic abusive relationship that I once was in. And when I start sharing and start researching and start really pouring into the community of narcissism and started educating people to the things that I healed through, I was able to start being stretched, and God amplified my following. But when he amplified it, it was so foreign, because it was like, you said you wanted to have 1,000 followers hit. God gave me double that and said it's time to go live. And I was scared to death, y'all. I never could do it. And recently with my vintage boutique, I've been selling clothes for over 3 years now, but I never really stepped into the space where it was consistent. I would create fashion content. I would come online and speak words of affirmation and all these things on TikTok and even on my Tosh Speaks page where I speak motivational. And I never went live. It was almost like my palms were clammy and I was sweaty and nervous. And I don't know why, because I can press record on a video and post it, but the live just was something that I feared. And God put in my spirit last week, he said, with your vintage boutique, I'm challenging you to go live every single day for 1 week. And in going live on my Instagram page, it has stretched me to start going live even on TikTok. And I don't always have an outline, a plan, a roadmap, or even a conversation specifically that I'm going to have. But I just get on here and I go with my spirit and I speak with whatever falls on my heart to share. And where this message gets really good is, I urge and encourage you, if you're somebody that wants to do something in this life, and I don't know what that looks like for you, but if there's something that's been sitting in your spirit, if there's something that you're good at being creative with, if there's something good that you're able to share and educating people with, if there's a talent that you have, if there's a prayer life that you want to encounter, but you're not quite sure how to do it, just do it. Don't worry about if you got a roadmap or a plan. Don't worry about if you understand exactly why God is putting you in a space of this discomfort. Don't worry about any of the things that you feel about fearing this. But what you have to understand is, on the other side of fear, there's faith. And if God, I challenge you to amplify your faith, lessen your fear, and cleave to God, right? And when you do that in a space that you're in with whatever talent or whatever gift you possess, and I urge and encourage you to amplify your faith in God. You have to understand that you can achieve many things. If you can be happy with few, God will give you dominion over many. If you just understand that as he's the source provider of your strength, that you can do all things through Christ Jesus that gives you strength, you can achieve many things, my loves. And I want someone to understand that. Just look at me. I was scared to death. I think the first live that or the first post that I ever did on my Tosh Speaks page on Instagram, y'all, the camera was here. And I was talking like this. I didn't have a first concept of an angle, how to position the camera. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it. And I did it scared. Because when you do things, when you're scared, when you're fearful, when you're unsure, uncertain, whether you have a lot of people that support you or even just one, as long as you are obedient and you just do it, if you are happy with few, God will give you dominion over many. I am a living, walking testimony, y'all. I have been through so many different things throughout my life, and I'm only 37. But with what I've been through, with what I've overcome, with what trials and tribulation I've faced, and even with battles and what obstacles I've faced through all that I've been through, even now, I never give up. I keep going. I keep having faith. I keep understanding that as long as I show up for myself, even if I'm not only cheerleader, that I have big dreams, wild dreams, that I don't understand how God is going to allow them to manifest or how they're even going to come to fruition. But I manifest them. I pray over them. I stay intentional and consistent, and I do the work. Faith without works is dead. So when you manifest something, manifestation is only part of it, my loves. The other part of manifesting is having faith and doing work. That means showing up for yourself every single day. Not ever giving up on the plan that God has for you. Because what we don't understand is the moment God allowed our parents to conceive us, he already ordered the steps that he had for us. We were already people before we were born. He already had a plan and a roadmap. But it is up to us to seek ye the kingdom of God. And all things will be brought unto us. And things don't always look like material possessions. A lot of the times things look like blessings in the form of stewardship. Being blessed with a good heart that we share with other people, that we pour into other people, that we speak life into other people, that we allow other people to understand if they listen to our testimony, they are capable of doing great things in this life and not ever giving up on themselves or their dreams. My loves, if you have great dreams, big dreams, wild dreams, you just have to have faith, have courage, understand that God is with you always, and that as long as you never give up on yourself, and as long as you get so comfortable understanding that everything that you want in this life you can achieve through hard work, consistency, discipline, and faith, and also drawing a strengthened relationship to God, you will be amazing, my loves. You will be amazing. And I know I've had dreams and premonitions, and my daughter, we talked the other day and she said, Mommy, I don't want you to tell anyone, and it's weird. And I said, no, nothing you can tell me is weird. What is it? She said, I have sometimes dreams or thoughts in my mind where I see things, and I don't always realize that this is something that once it plays out, I've already saw before. And I said, sometimes God gives us visions, which are premonitions, and we see into glimpses of our future and even glimpses of our past that are reminders that something may have happened, but also that something is on the horizon to happen. And that's a word, because we are kindred spirits in that way, that I always have premonitions. I always see things before they actually happen. And when I see things before they actually happen, I make mental notes that even if it feels like a deja vu moment, it was a moment in time that God wanted to imprint in my mind, because it's going to show fruition in the future, and it was going to come to fruition. And what I realized is, in the midst of me having these thoughts and these premonitions and these feelings or this deja vu moments, is God telling me that whether or not it's something that you understand that will happen now or later, it will happen. Don't lose faith. Don't ever stop working. Don't ever stop moving. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep elevating. Keep having faith and trusting in me that I will allow you to see through all the things that you want to do. As long as you remember that and never forget it, you will reach for the stars and among them, because just over the horizon is your dreams being accomplished. And that is something that I want my children to understand and experience. And it is something that I tell them, you can do anything you put your mind to. You just cannot ever give up on yourself. And I allow them to come with me on this journey of creating, of building, of doing all that I do, because I want them to say when they get older, I watch my mom do these things. I watch my mom have faith. I watch my mom not give up. I watch my mom pray. I watched my mom do things that people thought she couldn't do, and she did it. And if she did it, so can I. If I can show my children these things in my life and encourage them through the walk that I have in this life, and if they can pull from how much I love them and how much I want them to believe in themselves and how much I want them to be amazing people in this life with good hearts and good spirits, then I feel like I've done a job well done. Because the moment that I ask God for children that I can love and that can love me back, I wanted to be a role model and set a framework from them that they could grow from, but they also can pull something from, so that when the generations to come that they show birth and raise up, that they can learn from the principles that I instilled upon them, and that they can carry them over for generations to come. The best way to break a generational curse in any family where there's tension, there's friction, there's trauma, and there's negativity is to do a new thing, right? To do a new thing. To decide that I will not be a victim of my circumstances, but that I will be a victor of them. I won't be a victim, I will be a thriver. I won't allow the negativity of the things that I saw in my upbringing challenge or deter me away from being different and showing up differently in my children's lives. Even if I have shortcomings, how can I be better? How can we communicate as a family unit of 3 and talk to each other about our feelings, show each other that we love each other through our words and our actions and affirmations? How can we become on one accord to grow as a family unit that exemplifies love, that exemplifies peace, that exemplifies unity? Something that may have not been something that I actually seen in its totality and in its pure essence growing up, but something that I can create a new paradigm and set a new trajectory for in my own family dynamic. My loves, I hope you gained something from this message because these words were on my heart and I felt like they would help someone. Until next time, my loves, because I will come to you again live soon. One love. I'll talk to you soon. I'm out. Talk to you guys later.